Hello, welcome to another video, and today we're going to be talking about the the shit show that is the British government, really.
Tory Sleaze, which is very relevant.
It has been for the last
10
years?
5 years. Well, I'd say it's really showed up itself in the
with Boris.
Yeah. I mean, it was there before, but I think it was quite withdrawn from the public eye a little bit. And then Boris Johnson, obviously being a very public figure in the UK.
Yeah.
Be that a good thing or not? Definitely not.
Yeah. However, the reason we're talking about this is because a week ago, right at the end of January, the Prime Minister suddenly grew a backbone, gone to Labour, and then lost it. But basically, because the chair of the the chair of the Conservative Party, Nadhim Zahawi, a Iraqi-born British politician, decided to not tell anyone about the fact that he had a £5 million penalty, and that he was being investigated by HMRC investigation, which resulted in him getting a £5 million penalty.
Which, by the way, for a character like a politician
it's not good.
A character, but politician like Nadhim Zahawi, very very bad, and 5 million being to him probably pennies,
Well, I mean, he did found YouGov.
Yeah,
he's the guy responsible for that.
True. Yeah.
Which weirdly always underplays any Labour advantage. Can't imagine why. But yeah, so that's the big news. That's what we're talking about, because it's not the only thing that's happening with Tory Sleaze. Because obviously, Sorrell Braverman was reappointed
after being fired by Liz Truss
for if I remember correctly, for
breaching the ministerial code.
No, it was worse than that. It was being an actual threat to national security.
Yeah, that's right. Pinging around
classified emails.
Really, classified documents.
Which, just for Americans, yes, if you mess around with classified information in this country, you get fired. In America, you get to be president for some reason.
Well, I mean, you get fired and then you get brought in by the next prime minister.
In the name of integrity.
Yes, I mean, and this is the trouble with Tory Sleaze. Now, this time, sort of 8-9 years ago, if Sunak had got back in, or Sunak had got in,
he wasn't even in Parliament then.
Yeah, but this time, say if he was this time 8 or 9 years ago, after David Cameron, for example, right?
Yeah.
Now, he could have got away with this a lot better, a lot easier.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's a weird one because we remember David Cameron as being Mr. Brexit. Which is very unfair because before that, he ran the country effectively. He was a good prime minister.
And see, this was
except Brexit.
There was the Sleaze. But it was a lot more.
Not as much of it.
No,
no one knew as much of it. And it was dealt with.
It was.
But yeah, I mean, like David Cameron, managed to handle the riots effectively. Managed to, do all that stuff.
And arguably, he was fairly respected in government, and he was fairly respected out of government, really.
Yeah, he was a competent prime minister.
Yeah, it's only Brexit that really
let him down.
I mean, we got to 2016. Was it 2016?
Well, he promised it in 2015 so he could win the next election.
Yeah.
Because it was looking like another hung parliament. And he promised a referendum, basically, to get himself off the line.
Yeah.
And he fully expected British people to, be in possession of a brain. And say no to leaving Brexit.
Yeah.
To leaving the EU. And Brit said, yeah, let's do that. Let's.
So he turned his heel,
Yeah. So he was like, well, that went wrong.
And
see ya.
Yeah, he was out the door and left everything on the shoulders of his secretary.
Oh yeah, on Theresa May.
And
also,
which was a nightmare.
It's weird because David Cameron was the last prime minister to actually serve a full term.
Yes, that's also true.
Yeah, I thought Boris Johnson would do it. I thought he would get to 2024.
No, I didn't think he would.
Until that Partygate happened, I thought he'll get through. He won't get re-elected, but he'll get through.
I started having my doubts with Boris Johnson, and it was probably more of hope than doubt. But
I was going to say, yeah.
I mean, I started having the feeling that after COVID was done, they'd probably think about getting rid of him because of the sort of the way he'd handled it. But to be fair, they didn't. They kept him in, and
it was just
he sort of clung on till sort of mid 2022, I think. May or June.
He well, I mean, it basically the Tories threw him out because he was a liability for the next election.
Yeah,
and replaced him with Liz Truss, who handed the next election to Labour on a silver platter. Because when Boris left office, the Tories were 5 points behind Labour. That's
relatively
give it a few months. That'll go up, right? Tories will end up back on top. They could easily win the next. They could probably win the next election.
Yeah.
Liz Truss crashed the pound, destroyed, pretty much broke the Conservative Party in half,
and crashed the economy and and when we say that we actually mean it. Like the pound fell so low in comparison to the dollar and to other currencies.
I'll put it this way: this time last year, £1 bought $1.40 roughly.
Yeah.
Now it buys $1.25.
Yeah, and that's very low.
It wasn't as low as it went. It went down to 103.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, it's back to 124, which is about the same as what it was during Brexit.
Right.
During when Parliament was ripping itself apart, it was about 125.
Right. So it's around.
But in fairness, Sunak did pretty quickly manage to get the pound back up. They really calmed the markets and restored some sort of financial order.
We had obviously Kwasi Kwarteng was the Chancellor.
Yeah.
And they were the way that Truss and Kwarteng were sort of managing and handling the sort of money of the British people was very, very sort of trickle down economics, they would call it.
Yeah.
Because it was very much, we're going to borrow now and pay back later.
Yeah.
But it would have put everyone into a massive amount of debt, which the taxpayer, would have to pay off.
Yeah. Speaking of massive amounts of debt being needlessly collected, the next video that we're going to be doing is about Canada, and that's Justin Trudeau's policy is massive deficits, and Canada going back to its days of stupidly high debts.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting because I don't know much about Canadian politics.
Yes, but this started off as a discussion of Tory Sleaze. Now it's just a rant against the Conservative government.
Yeah, pretty much.
Vote Labour at the next election.
Please.
For Brits. Just a quick thing. If you're not sure what we're talking about, Tories, Labour. Basically, the right-wing nut jobs are being outclassed by the left-wing idiots, and basically the idiots are getting back in power. At the next election in 2024, and it will go to 2024. There's no prospect for an early election.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I think Sunak's he's on stable ground in my opinion. The sleaze is there, but
it's a weird one because he is a competent leader. As weird as it sounds.
Yes,
he actually knows how to run a country,
and I agree. He is very competent. It's almost back to.
It's back to normal. Unfortunately, it's been preceded by an incredibly incompetent leader who, basically, Sunak's polling, it hasn't got worse. It's just, it hasn't got better.
Yeah,
that's all.
I mean, if Rishi Sunak had got in before Liz Truss, right? Or after Liz Truss, rather. Sorry, what am I saying? After Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
If Sunak had actually got in, because he was very close.
Yeah.
The only thing I think people
it's 20,000 votes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, people were kind of duped in by her sort of. She was focused on economics, where he was focused on sort of a bit of everything. But if he'd have actually got that in, because he was the favourite at one point, then I think people would have. giving him a bit more of a chance.
It's what
but,
I mean. It is what he is what the MPs preferred. Is what the country at large preferred.
Yeah.
Between the two, people were like, well, Sunak's, he's competent. Like he ran the economy during COVID. And the economy did rebound quite significantly.
Yeah.
And the Tory party itself basically didn't want Sunak because for whatever reason. The reason they give is because he was disloyal to Boris. The reason other people have given is that they were racist. I suspect it's probably the first one, officially, but subconsciously probably the second one. Cause of course.
And there was also obviously, like Sunak's wealth. I mean, he's richer. He's like
that's never stopped the Conservatives.
He's the first ever prime minister to overrule the monarchy in their wealth.
Yeah. I mean,
which is quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it is a weird one. We could probably talk about the monarchy all day. In fact, I'm going to include a bit of discussion about the monarchy in the Canada thing because we still have the same monarch for some fucking reason.
Yeah, that's interesting. That.
So that's our discussion. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird with Sunak because he is, for annoyingly competent.
Yeah, and when you say annoyingly, I think that's where we are with the Tories now, is that people are just so used to sort of like hate that they actually find it annoying when the leader leads.
Apparently though, all the way through, even though the Tories are in the can, polling does consistently show that people think Sunak is a better prime minister than Starmer will be. Like he himself is pretty popular.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I mean he had, I guess, really, I mean I'm not a Tory, but I'm being as unbiased as I possibly can.
Yeah. And he wants to burn Parliament down.
Yeah, and to be no, I'd rather not do that.
It's pretty good at doing that itself.
Yeah, it can't. Yeah, I mean, I don't need to touch it. It's gonna erupt at some point. But to be fair, to Sunak, he had a very, very good sales pitch. Because he was a young and upcoming person, youngest prime minister in over 100 years.
Yeah, 200. Yeah, 200 years.
Yeah,
first ethnic minority.
That's another thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then obviously.
Second, if you consider Jewish people as an ethnic minority, then he's second. Yeah. Benjamin Disraeli was Jewish.
Yeah, and then on top of that, he's done very, very well business wise. Yeah. And it's actually quite empowering, especially for the young generation.
I mean, it's always a thing of
it's actually better than Starmer in a way.
Because it's always a thing of like, well, he's the son of privilege. Well, he isn't. His parents are Indian immigrants. They, like all immigrants, started at the bottom, and they worked themselves up, and then Sunak, worked upon that. So yeah, he is. Yeah. He's not so far as self-made. Like he didn't grow up in poverty or anything.
Yeah.
Although apparently he did have to watch Baywatch on a plastic blanket.
Oh really?
I think we both know what the reason was for that.
Yes. But yeah. See, and that's the thing where you said, which was very
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you going to say? Sorry.
Where you said that was very interesting about him making a better prime minister than Starmer.
Yeah.
I can understand a way, especially for our generation. I mean, because I'm 21 years old, right? I'm a young person, and seeing from that perspective, seeing a young prime minister that's the youngest person in the government, let alone as prime minister.
Yeah.
Actually doing that. And then obviously you've got Keir Starmer, who's actually naturally a bit more right wing.
Yeah, he should really be in the about half the Labour front bench should be in there. Do you know one person I am a self-identified conservative, but if I was going to give the Labour Party any advice on how to win an election, bring in Andy Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester. Bring him in because he's really popular. He's really good. So bring him in. Because he used to be in the cabinet, and like the way he fought for the Hillsborough victims shows that he's able to put aside potentially his career in pursuit of helping people. That's the sort of person Labour need, not some lawyer. And also, the Labour Party is supposed to be a socialist party that is being led by a knight of the fucking realm.
Yeah, and see, this is another thing about Labour. The idea of Labour is being abolished by its own leader because...
Oh, that was abolished by Tony Blair.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, Blair, obviously, and then you've got Starmer, who is basically Blair.
Yeah.
Like early
just
97 or early 97 pre-Prime Minister Blair, and it's quite because as Chris just identified there. I mean, I'm naturally left leaning.
Yeah.
So I it's hard to see the party that you support obviously going down the pan and becoming more right wing, because the left, the voices on the left are being sort of isolated, I think, and the message of, I think, people from the left is being saturated and twisted into something completely different. But that's a whole other story. That's a whole other video. So.
But yeah, I mean, the worst thing about Rishi Sunak, of course, is he wants to bring maths to 18.
What's that, sorry?
He basically wants, you know how in the UK you learn maths until you're 16, right?
Oh yeah, he
wants to do it to 18, which is in line with the rest of the world, but he is, of course, on the basis of that, a monster and probably the worst Prime Minister ever.
Yeah, I mean, that's rough. That's terrible.
So whilst we enjoy the fact that we are no longer in school
and studying maths, which is by the way, maths was my least favourite subject.
It's everyone's least favourite subject, except my younger brother. Weirdly, he likes it.
Because he's fucking hated maths. Right, I kept failing it because I never understood what I was supposed to do. Yeah. It was so bad, and then obviously you've got these really like skillful mathematicians, and I'm like,
like Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
So he wants to bring back maths. So whilst he gets angry, I'm going to end the video here, and we'll see you in the next one. Also, we'll see you in the next one, and don't forget to
hate maths.
Subscribe by punching me in the face. It's somewhere along here, and why not watch another video?
Don't punch me, please. I'm sensitive. So.
Well, but there is an image of me, so click it if you want to subscribe. And why not leave a like or comment? Just make sure that if the comment's mean, make sure it's funny. See ya.